Let's talk about dividing fractions. Okay, we looked at in the last video that we can multiply our fractions straight across. Therefore, 1/2 times 2/3, which was the example we used, came out to be 2/6. And when you simplified them, it came down to 1/3. Okay, today we're going to look at what happens if we divide the exact same fractions. There's a 3-letter acronym that we're going to need to remember. KCF means keep, change, flip. Okay, so we're going to keep our first fraction. Then we're going to change our operation, and we're going to flip our second fraction and then multiply straight across. In this case, you're going to come out with 6/4. Okay, when you do this, you're going to simplify your answer, and in this case, because we have an improper fraction, you're going to change it to a mixed fraction and continue to simplify until it is down as far as it will go. Now make sure you do not forget this is how you are going to divide fractions. Okay? One of my students last year looked at it and said, "Man, that looks just like Kentucky Fried Chicken." I was like, "Well, it's pretty close, except you got to remember that it's a little bit backwards." So if it helps, you can always remember Kentucky Chicken Fried just to help remember the pattern by which that we're going to do this. So let's look at another example quickly. So we can take 5/6, we can divide it by 7/8, okay? And remembering that we must use our KCF, we're going to keep our first one, we're going to change our operation, and we're going to flip our second fraction. Then, again, you just multiply straight across. 5 times 8 is 40. 6 times 7 is 42. We know that these are both divisible by 2 because they're even, but is there a better factor of these numbers that we could use? So let's look at our factors of 40. Okay, you have 1 and 40. Then you could have 2 and 20. 3 is not going to be a factor. 4 will. 5, because we multiplied 5 and 8, those are going to be factors. And 6 and 7 will not, because we realized that those are 42. So let's look at the factors of 42. You have 1 and 42. You have 2. Well, 2 times what is 42? It's going to be 21. 3 will be a factor of 42. And just a little trick as a side note is that if you take any of these numbers and add them, add, and you come up with an easy multiple of 3, it's going to be divisible by 3. It's just a trick. It's not a rule. It's not a process. It's just a trick to help make that a little easier. So 3 times what is going to be 42? Well, we can use division and figure out what that other number is going to be. 3 is going to go into 4 once. 4 minus 3 is 1. We bring down our 2. So now I have 12. 3 times 4 is 12. So 14 is 4 going to be? Well, it's possible. We could take a look and use what we know. 9 times 4 is 36. And we have 10 times 4 for 40. Well, if we add 4 more, it's going to be over 42, so 4 is not going to work. It doesn't end in a 0 or a 5, so 5 is not going to be a factor. 6 will, because we have 6 and 7 there, and we've met ourselves in the middle. Okay? So that's how we know that we found all the factors. Now, we're going to go through and look for the greatest number that both of these share as factors. In this case, I have 2. There's no 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14. It looks like 2 is actually going to be our best. So we're going to take our 40 over 42, and we're going to divide our top and bottom by 2 because it's the largest factor that they share in common. And you're going to come out with 20 over 21. And that is going to be simplified, or in its simplest form.